Hello and welcome everyone, it's Vinrock39 again. Today's video will be about to inspire or not to inspire. That is the question, because today's open games that I got into were really troublesome when it came to the inspire skill. It's cool. I mean, it's a really good skill. This is how I would use it if I'm going to build an Inspire build. This is actually my Inspire build, but I took the points down just to show you how I go up the skill tree. I use the first aid kits, or uppers, whatever you want to call them. I can use the doctor bags. It really doesn't matter. What I'm really concerned about is how players choose to inspire people. To get them off the ground, rather, not inspiration. You know what I mean. Either way, I've done some tests and found that the painkillers actually helps players more than when I don't use it. If I'm running quick fix aced, they're only getting 10% less damage for 120 seconds. That sounds great. 120 seconds less damage, a whole 2 minutes. But 10% is nothing in my opinion. I'd rather have this 80% damage reduction for 5 seconds. Mainly because if you don't have line of sight of me and I go down and you shout me up, let's say like the cook-off, that's a perfect example, or Rats Day 1. I'm in the basement turning on the lights because they killed the power, and then I get down by a taser or a dozer that's down there, right? Well, somebody on the top floor notices I'm down, shouts me up through the floor, and he didn't see the 4 shields that came down there, and they're hanging out with that dozer. So I'm pretty much done. But I've had instances where a player must have been using painkillers, because the situation I'm telling you about has happened to me more than once. And I survived when one person inspired me, but when another one did, it didn't help. You know, I just went right back down. So word to the wise, and I try to do this when I'm playing. Now if it puts you in a real compromising situation, then shout them up and see what happens. But if you're using painkillers aced, they'll probably get out of there and get somewhere safe, because they're using an 80% damage reduction for 5 seconds. That's plenty of time to get out of there and maybe get somewhere safe, hit a doctor bag or medic, first aid kit, whatever you want to call it. If you're not using painkillers, that could be a problem for the guy that you're inspiring, especially if you don't clear the area first. So as a rule of thumb, if I see someone down, I at least try to go and see what's going on, if it's within my means. If it's not, like I said previously, just shout them up and see what happens. Pray for the best. But I would rather a player with painkillers ace shout me up than someone without it. Now that being said, the combat medic skill is nice to get up into the tree, and it sure sounds good giving someone 30% more health when you're reviving them. But I'm not quite sure how this affects a player using Frenzy. I used to run it with this aced, and I don't know. I really can't tell. I don't use Frenzy in any of the builds I have. I did make a couple 1-down builds, and for an Anarchist, I believe I tried Frenzy, and it's a strong skill. At least with Anarchist, it worked really, really well. I tried it with some other ones, and I found out no, you don't want Frenzy with certain builds. But that being said, painkillers aced, combat doctor aced, uppers aced. That's your choice. I'm not telling you how to spend your points. But if you don't have painkillers ace, make sure you go check and see if the guy or lady is clear before you want to shout them up. They do have 25 seconds usually, I think it is. So that gives you enough time, if you're on top of your stuff, that you could be able to go clear it up a little bit and get them the heck out of there. If you can't raise them up by hand, why would you shout them up? In my opinion, if you look over and you see all that mess, why would you want to raise them up off the ground and all that chaos when you yourself wouldn't be able to go over there and pick them up manually? That's kind of the way I decide. You know, if I can't pick you up manually, I'm gonna do all I can to shoot everything that's around you so I can shout you up and maybe get you somewhere safe. All right, that's enough of that. Okay, just remember, be wise. Try to think about what you're doing before you just shout someone up, because you could be hurting them, especially in those one down missions. It's real frustrating, you know, and then you're hurting your team by doing that, because now you got a guy in custody instead of a guy fighting and helping you push the mission. Now, the other thing I'd like to talk about is jokers and hostages. Confident Aced, if you didn't already know, allows you to have 2 converted enemies to fight on your side. Now, the newer players, just for your knowledge, I made this mistake in the early day too. I didn't realize the little light blue outline around that cop that I shot 150 times and he didn't die. So I broke out a rocket launcher and blew him off the map. Well, I just took away a player from our side. That light blue outline means they're fighting for us. That's a converted cop. That's a joker. I know everybody's probably thinking, yeah, duh. But not everyone sees it or gets it, because I've been seeing a lot of people wasting their rounds on a joker like I did back in the very early days. Okay, I learned that's not what you do. You leave them alone. They take so much damage. They draw attention from the cops away from you. They're just really, really good. Jokers are incredible. Some people don't even use this skill. I know I was one that never cared to use it in the very beginning. And then I started being a little more open to different things and trying to test and do better builds. And I found that jokers, especially with Grinder, helped me live so much longer. With that being said, it also is a benefit for your crew as far as if there's a crew chief in your party, the more hostages, whether they're cops that have been intimidated or regular civilians who you cable tied, they're going to help you, even though you don't use jokers, even though you don't care for hostages. If you have a crew chief in your party, he's going to make it possible for you to take so much more damage and live through it, because that's one of the benefits of a crew chief perk deck that's maxed out. You can have hostages around and converted cops. The converted cops, partners in crime, Ace, boost your health, so 30% more health. Who doesn't want more health in a game where health keeps you alive? The other thing is if you've got a bunch of civvies tied up, there's a little icon in the right corner of the screen in the top side that shows how many hostages we have on whatever particular mission you're doing. Even if you don't use jokers, even if you don't care about civilians, it's better to have that number as high as possible as opposed to 0, because some people benefit from that crew chief perk deck when you have hostages. If you don't have hostages, the crew chief, as long as he's got his jokers, I'm sure he'll be okay, but he's not going to get the full benefit of that perk deck unless you start shouting down civilians and cops to create a more team-friendly environment, because the more hostages and more jokers you have, the less likely you're going to lose the mission in all reality, because jokers are that strong. And a crew chief by himself with 2 jokers and 4 civvies tied up, that's some serious defense. You could even play in death sentence with that. And I'm not bragging, but I started doing some death sentence missions, and I'm be real, I can't do anything with Grinder, but crew chief, I got through one. Solo too. Well, not solo, I do use my bots or the AI, but no live players with me. And I'm slowly but surely knocking them out. But really, Stoic is the one that's helping more than any of them. But crew chief does work if you're patient and you play a certain way. It's not like when you play on Death Wish. I mean, the jump between Death Sentence and Death Wish is really, really wide. It's a big gap. And yeah, you can't. It's all about how you can survive more than how much you can kill. Even though killing is a big factor in Death Sentence, but really being able to survive being hit seems to be more important. That's why having hostages and converteds is almost mandatory for Death Sentence in most cases. But aside from that, remember, if you don't have jokers and you don't use them, that doesn't mean you can't shout down cops and increase your hostage count, because that's still, it's better, because even if no one's a crew chief in your party, even if no one's using jokers, having hostages around limits how much the cops are going to mess with you during the assault, because they're always going to try and release hostages, at least for the most part, first, and then continue going after you and your crew. So yeah, try not to shoot all the hostages. Try to shout down as many cops as you can. Having a high number in that hostage count is always a good thing. You can't go wrong having hostages as a heister. Let's see what else. Yeah, I think that's about it as far as etiquette. To inspire or not to inspire. Remember, it's a great skill. It's so useful, but try not to use combat medic. I'm not sure if it affects frenzy or not, or when people are using berserker rather. I don't know if that extra 30% health is going to hurt them. That's why I leave it basic, because I'm not sure. And I go painkillers, and I always switch between one or the other. If we're in a lobby and someone says I'm bringing Ace doctor bags, and I bring first aid kits. If they're bringing first aid kits and I notice everybody's doing it, then I'll switch it over to doctor bags. It's not a big deal. But really, it's about when to inspire and when not to inspire is what this was all about. And a little touch on hostage and jokers. But aside from that, I hope everyone's enjoying this game. I know it's an old game, and we're all looking forward to Payday 3, which I've been waiting for about 6 years now. But it's all good. It's all good. We'll be fine. If nothing else, it'll come out eventually. That being said, I hope this proves useful to you guys and ladies out there who are trying to work this out. And as always, take care, be well, and good games, everyone.